In December 2024, Google announced a new quantum chip. And within days, one of its own lead scientists said something that sounded more like science fiction than a corporate blog post. He said the chip's performance was so fast, it had to have borrowed computing power from other universes. That's not an exaggeration for this video. That's an actual quote from an actual Google scientist on Google's own website. Stick around because the real story here is genuinely mind-bending. Let's start with the chip itself, because the numbers involved are hard to wrap your head around. Google's quantum computing team calls it Willow. It's a quantum processing chip, built using qubits instead of the regular bits your phone or laptop uses. A normal computer bit can only be a 0 or a 1. A qubit can exist in a mix of both states at once, something physicists call superposition. That property is what lets quantum computers, in specific situations, tackle certain problems in a completely different way than classical computers can. On December 9th, 2024, Google announced Willow's results on something called random circuit sampling, a benchmark test specifically designed to measure how well a quantum computer performs compared to classical supercomputers. Willow completed that benchmark in under 5 minutes. Google's own estimate was that one of the world's fastest existing supercomputers would need roughly 10 septillion years to complete the same task. That's a 10 followed by 24 zeros. A number so large it doesn't just beat the age of the universe, it makes the age of the universe look almost insignificant by comparison. The person who announced these results was Hartmut Neven, the founder and lead of Google's Quantum AI Lab. In a blog post on Google's own website, he called Willow's performance on this benchmark astonishing. Then he wrote something that immediately made headlines everywhere from tech outlets to major news publications. He said Willow's performance was so phenomenally fast that it had to have, in his words, borrowed the computation from parallel universes. Read that again. Not a science fiction writer, not a theoretical physicist speculating in an academic paper. The actual lead of Google's quantum computing division, writing in an official announcement about a real chip that actually exists. Neven went further, stating that this result lends credence to the idea that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes, tying it directly to something called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. So where does that idea actually come from, and is there anything behind it beyond a provocative quote? The many worlds interpretation isn't new, and it wasn't invented by Google. It was first proposed decades ago by physicist Hugh Everett, and later developed further by Oxford physicist David Deutsch, whom Neven specifically credited in his announcement. The basic idea goes like this. In standard quantum mechanics, a particle can exist in multiple possible states simultaneously, a superposition, until it's measured or observed, at which point it appears to collapse into just one specific outcome. The many worlds interpretation offers a different explanation for what's actually happening during that process. Instead of the other possibilities simply vanishing when a measurement occurs, this interpretation suggests that every possible outcome actually happens, just in separate, branching universes that we can never directly observe or interact with. Under this view, reality isn't a single timeline. It's an enormous, constantly branching tree of realities, with a version of our universe splitting off every time a quantum event has more than one possible outcome. Deutsch specifically argued decades ago that if physicists could successfully build a working quantum computer, its performance would actually serve as indirect evidence supporting the many worlds interpretation, because such a machine would essentially be exploiting the existence of those other parallel branches too. Perform calculations that a single classical universe simply couldn't handle fast enough on its own. That's the theoretical backdrop Neven was directly referencing when he made his comment about Willow. He wasn't inventing a new idea out of nowhere. He was applying a decades-old physics interpretation to a brand new piece of hardware that had just posted numbers nobody could easily explain, using ordinary classical computing logic alone. Now here's where it gets important to slow down, because this is exactly where a lot of online coverage ran wild with the story. Neven's statement was a genuine, on-record claim from a serious physicist leading a major quantum computing lab, but it was also immediately controversial within the physics community itself. Many other physicists pushed back almost immediately. The many worlds interpretation is one of several competing interpretations of quantum mechanics that all currently produce the exact same testable predictions. There are other interpretations, including ones that don't require any parallel universes at all, that explain quantum computing's power just as effectively using entirely different underlying assumptions about reality. In other words, Willow's blazing benchmark speed is real. That part is not in dispute. What's genuinely debated is whether Neven's specific explanation, that it's somehow borrowing computation from other universes, is the correct interpretation of why quantum computers work, or whether it's simply one dramatic way of describing math that other physicists would explain without invoking a multiverse at all. Critics pointed out that this specific benchmark random circuit sampling is a task deliberately designed to be almost impossible for classical computers to simulate efficiently, precisely because it showcases quantum advantage. It's an important technical achievement, but it's also somewhat abstract, not the kind of real-world calculation most people encounter in daily life. So the honest, complete picture looks like this. Willow really did perform a benchmark computation in a scientifically verified, publicly documented way, in a time frame that would be functionally impossible for classical supercomputers using any currently known method. That part is confirmed technical fact. What Willow's speed actually proves about the fundamental nature of reality, whether it's genuine evidence for a multiverse or simply a powerful demonstration of quantum mechanics behaving the way equations have long predicted it should, without necessarily requiring literal parallel universes, remains a genuinely open and contested question among physicists. Beyond the multiverse debate, Willow's announcement included another achievement that arguably matters even more for the practical future of quantum computing. Quantum computers have always struggled with a serious problem called quantum error correction. Qubits are extremely fragile. The slightest disturbance from heat, vibration, or electromagnetic interference can cause them to lose their quantum state, introducing errors into any calculation. For years, one of the biggest open questions in the field was whether adding more qubits to a quantum system would actually make error rates better or worse overall. Google's team demonstrated with Willow that as they scaled up the number of qubits used for error correction, the system's overall error rate actually dropped exponentially instead of getting worse. That's a genuinely significant engineering milestone, arguably more important long-term than the flashy multiverse quote that dominated headlines. It suggests a practical path toward building larger, more reliable quantum computers capable of tackling real-world problems, rather than just narrow benchmark tests designed to showcase speed. Following the announcement, Google's stock price actually rose more than 5%, reflecting how seriously investors took the technical achievement, regardless of how the multiverse framing was received in the broader public conversation. So what does all of this actually mean right now, in practical terms? Quantum computers like Willow aren't going to replace the laptop or phone you're using anytime soon. They're specialized machines, extremely good at very specific kinds of problems involving massive numbers of interacting possibilities, the exact kind of math that classical computers struggle with as complexity grows. Potential applications researchers are excited about include drug discovery, where quantum computers could simulate molecular interactions far more efficiently than classical methods allow, new approaches to battery and energy technology, and advances in cryptography and cybersecurity, both defensively and as a genuine future threat to some of today's encryption standards. None of that requires resolving the multiverse debate first. The practical value of quantum computing exists regardless of which interpretation of quantum mechanics ultimately turns out to be correct. But it's worth sitting with the actual, verified core of this story for a moment, because it doesn't need any exaggeration to be remarkable. A physical chip built by engineers sitting in a lab, using the strange rules of quantum mechanics, solved a specific benchmark problem in under 5 minutes that would take one of the world's fastest classical supercomputers, a length of time longer than the universe itself has existed. And the person who built it, a serious credentialed physicist, looked at that result and said publicly that the most reasonable explanation he could offer involved parallel universes actively contributing to the computation. Whether or not that interpretation eventually holds up against rigorous scientific scrutiny, that's a genuinely historic moment in the story of computing and physics, both. Real hardware, a real quote, and a real ongoing scientific debate about what it actually means. That's the real story behind Google's quantum AI. No fabricated signals, no secret alien contact, no invented dialogue. Just a real chip, a real physicist's on-record theory, and one of the strangest, most legitimately debated questions in modern physics. The discussion surrounding quantum computing also highlights something much broader about how scientific breakthroughs usually unfold over time. Major advances rarely arrive as finished technologies ready to transform every